Imagine a country split in two, brothers fighting brothers and a nation torn apart by opposing ideals. This is the story of the American Civil War, one of the bloodiest and most transformative conflicts in American history. But this was not just a war over territory or power. It was a struggle for the soul of a nation, a battle between freedom and slavery, between union and separation. Today we delve into this extraordinary story and learn how it shaped the world we know today. The American Civil War, fought between 1861 and 1865, was much more than a military confrontation. It was a watershed moment in the history of the United States, marking the moment when the country faced its greatest dilemmas: slavery, states' rights, and the very definition of freedom. For 4 years, millions of Americans took up arms, not only to defend their causes, but also to decide the future of the country. But how did we get to this point? What led a prosperous young nation to engage in such a brutal war? To understand this, we need to go back to the roots of the conflict, exploring the growing tensions between the industrialized North and the agrarian South, the debates over slavery, and the events that led to the division of the country. In this video, we'll explore the full story of the American Civil War, from its origins to its lasting consequences. We'll look at the most important battles, the leaders who shaped the conflict, and the individual stories that humanize this national tragedy. Get ready for a moving and eye-opening journey. The roots of the conflict, tensions between North and South. To understand the American Civil War, we need to look back at the decades leading up to the conflict. The United States was, in effect, two distinct nations under one flag. The North was industrialized with economies based on manufacturing, trade, and wage labor. The South, on the other hand, depended on an agrarian economy sustained by slavery, especially the cultivation of cotton, tobacco, and other agricultural products. Economic differences reflected deeply divergent views on the role of the federal government and states' rights. The South staunchly defended the right of each state to decide on issues such as slavery, while the North saw the federal government as a unifying force that should promote equality and social progress. These tensions came to a head in pivotal events such as the Missouri Compromise, 1820, which attempted to balance the number of free and slave states, and the Fugitive Slave Act, 1850, which required citizens to assist in the capture of runaway slaves. Each political decision seemed to worsen the divide, leading to a climate of increasing hostility. One of the defining moments was the election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860. Although Lincoln did not explicitly advocate the immediate abolition of slavery, his stance against the expansion of the practice into new territories was enough to make the Southern states fear for the future of the institution. Within months of his inauguration, 7 Southern states declared their withdrawal from the Union, forming the Confederate States of America. But what happened next? How did a political dispute turn into an all-out war? The outbreak of the war. Fort Sumter and the first confrontations. The war officially began on April 12, 1861, when Confederate forces attacked Fort Sumter in South Carolina. This small fort, located at the entrance to Charleston Harbor, became a symbol of federal resistance. After a 34-hour bombardment, the Union troops were forced to surrender, marking the beginning of the armed conflict. In the months that followed, both sides began to mobilize their forces. The North had significant advantages: a larger population, a more diversified economy, and control of the railroads and sea routes. However, the South had experienced generals and was fighting on its own territory, which gave it an initial strategic advantage. Early battles, such as the Battle of Bull Run, Manassas in July 1861, showed that the war would be long and brutal. Thousands of volunteers marched to the battlefield full of enthusiasm, expecting a quick victory. However, the reality of war soon revealed itself: blood-soaked fields, devastating casualties, and the absence of any easy solutions. In this section, we will explore the early events of the war, including the strategies adopted by both sides, the leaders who emerged, and the lessons learned from the early battles. The Great Battles. Decisive moments of the war. The American Civil War was marked by some of the bloodiest battles in American history. Notable among them were Antietam, Gettysburg, Vicksburg, and Shiloh. Each of these battles had a profound impact on the course of the conflict. Antietam, 1862. One of the deadliest battles fought in a single day. Antietam marked the high point of the Confederate invasion of the North led by General Robert E. Lee. Although the Confederates managed to escape, the Union's tactical victory allowed Lincoln to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, changing the course of the war. Gettysburg, 1863. Considered the decisive turning point of the war, Gettysburg was a crushing defeat for the Confederates. Lincoln's speech at the battleground, known as the Gettysburg Address, redefined the meaning of the war as a fight for freedom and equality. Vicksburg, 1863. By securing control of the Mississippi River, Union forces split the South in half, cutting off significant portions of Confederate territory. Shiloh, 1862. A brutal battle that exposed the ferocity of war and the human toll on both sides. In addition to these battles, we'll explore the conditions soldiers faced on the battlefield, the diseases that claimed as much lives as bullets, and the technological advances that changed the way wars were fought. The role of civilians and abolitionist movements. While soldiers fought on the front lines, civilians faced their own struggles. In the North, women took on traditionally male roles in factories and offices, while also organizing fundraising campaigns to support soldiers. In the South, food and supply shortages led to popular uprisings, especially among women who saw their sons and husbands being sent to war. Abolitionist movements also gained momentum during the war. Leaders such as Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman challenged the status quo, advocating for the freeing of slaves and the conscription of African Americans into the Union Army. The participation of black soldiers in battles such as Fort Wagner proved crucial to the cause of freedom. In this section, we will explore the stories of ordinary people who lived through the war, as well as the impact of the Emancipation Proclamation and other policies that changed the lives of millions of Americans. The end of the war and its lasting consequences. The coup war officially ended on April 9, 1865, when Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Union General Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse. However, the end of hostilities did not mean the end of the Troubles. The assassination of Abraham Lincoln a few days later cast a shadow over the Reconstruction of the country. Reconstruction, which lasted from 1865 to 1877, was a period of great change and challenge. While the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments abolished slavery and guaranteed rights to African Americans, Southern resistance and the rise of the Ku Klux Klan undermined these advances. Today, the American Civil War remains a central theme in discussions about national identity, racial equality, and the limits of federal power. What lessons were learned, and how can we apply them to the modern world? The American Civil War was a devastating conflict that tested the limits of democracy and exposed the nation's fundamental contradictions. It ushered in a new era of freedom and equality, but it also left deep scars that still resonate today. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about historical events that shaped the world, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to watch the next video where we'll explore another incredible milestone in world history. Until then, keep thinking, questioning, and learning. After all, history isn't just about the past, it's about the future we can build together. Until next time.